How hard can this be? Uh-oh, broke a needle. They should go this direction. And I've got them backwards. I'm gonna recut the facing. Today, I don't have a makeup review for you. I thought we would do a little something different. I know, just hear me out. If you're into ambitious projects, I think you're gonna like this one. Something you may or may not know about me is I have been sewing on and off for many years, and over the last several years, I've amassed a little bit of a collection of vintage sewing machines that I've restored and fixed up. And so I've been getting into sewing more and more. And recently I came across the coolest Hocus Pocus fabric for only $2 a yard. So inspiration struck with the amazing Sanderson sisters, and we've got their boyfriend in there too. So I actually think this is probably Hocus Pocus 2 fabric. But I decided to go ahead and do something fun for the month of October. So when it turned October 1st, I pulled out my patterns and got to work. So knowing that I was starting October 1st and I wanted something that I could wear as much as possible throughout the month of October, I wanted something quick. So I reached for my Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses book by Gretchen Hurst and went to, of course, the most advanced pattern in the book that I haven't made yet. So I will be doing the patio dress, and this is the short sleeve variation. But of course, this wouldn't be unfiltered makeup without a little bit of makeup on the channel too. So I do have a makeup pairing with the dress reveal at the end of the video, but you'll have to stay tuned to find out. If you're curious to see this ambitious undertaking and want to know how jiffy it was actually to make, I'll have a review of the pattern, all those details, and more. Let's get into it. Alright, so the idea was simple. Halloween's coming up and I want to make a costume that was unique, but also something that I felt like was a fun project for me to make that I'd actually want to wear. I loved Hocus Pocus growing up as a kid, watching it on the Disney Channel all the time, and then I tried to force my kids to watch the second one with me, and they did watch it, though they don't have the nostalgia that I do and thought it was pretty lame. But I know there's a lot of people in my generation that are Hocus Pocus fans and will love this fabric and love this dress. As I said, I picked the patio dress from the book Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses. I wanted to do the short sleeve version because I felt like of a quilting cotton, the long sleeves never really fit right, or the drape of the fabric is like too stiff and they're uncomfortable. They don't look quite right. So I definitely wanted a short sleeve, knowing that in the Pacific Northwest for Halloween, I'm definitely going to have to pair it with a sweater or a coat, but it's such a busy fabric that I think that's totally doable. Again, this is the most difficult pattern in this book. It starts from the easiest and goes to the hardest, but they're all fairly easy projects. I've sewn many dresses, but maybe not that many. And I've only really installed like 2 zippers, so by myself at least. So there are definitely going to be some challenges for me, but all of the skills overall I know that I have. Also, the thing about this dress is it doesn't come with a skirt pattern. You have to, she kind of gives you the idea of the measurements to take on yourself, but there's no real pattern for the skirt, which is good and bad because 1, you don't have to cut out a pattern, but 2, sometimes don't forget to measure twice, cut once, and make sure you measure yourself and the fabric. Now the patterns are in the back of this book. They come in this envelope. I did purchase a copy of this book, but only after I picked it up at the library and tested out a pattern first to see that I would like it. So the patio dress number 5 is the pattern here. Again, this is only for the bodice and sleeves. This is designed so that you do have to trace it. You cannot cut it because pieces will overlap with themselves. It's a multi-size pattern and it goes from sewing size 2 to size 16. Something to note about this pattern is it does have a collared neckline and the zipper is installed partway down. It is not installed directly up at the neck. It is a lapped style zipper, and all of the instructions are easy to follow in the pattern, at least I would say for a confident beginner. But I did think to myself, this is a Jiffy dress. I've sewn some of the other ones in a couple of days. How hard can this be? I started October 1st, and we will see how long it takes me to get it done. Best practice for any sewing project is to get your fabric pre-washed. So I popped that into the washer and dryer and got set with cutting it out.
Here we are on day 1. While the fabric was in the washer and dryer, I was tracing the pattern. So as I said earlier, you do have to trace these onto a tracing paper. I had this pattern paper and I transferred all the markings. You will notice that. I also did cut out the sleeves as well. Even though I wasn't planning on making them this time around, I thought that I would just cut them out in case I ever wanted to use the pattern again. I would have the option to do the long sleeves as well. I also did some modifications on this. I did a 1-inch sway back adjustment on the back of the bodice. So I did have to tape up some of the pattern pieces because I forgot to do the adjustment before I cut it out fully, but that's all right. Taping it worked great. And because this is a directional print, I did have to kind of make up my own layout, and I could not follow the pattern map in the back of the book. You will see going forward why that might have been a bit of a problem. But I did have to carefully cut out the bodice to make sure that all of the witches were going the same direction and I didn't have any upside down witches. As I mentioned, there was no pattern for the skirt, so I was just cutting out strips. I'm pretty short, only about 5 foot tall, so I decided I would make my skirt be about 23 inches long, but because you have to divide that by 3, I made it 23.25 inches long. That way each tier would be 7.75 inches long, but then you need to add 1.25 seam allowance for each tier, which made each of the panels an even 9 inches. So that's why I made my skirt kind of a funny measurement, is so that I could make those easy 9-inch panels.
Sadie, are you helping?
One thing I'm going to do next
Is that how you help, Miss Sadie?
think should go in a craft room, and I'm just going to move them.
You're very cute.
We'll figure out some other.
Now we're on to day 2. I interfaced the facings that go into the collar, and also on the sleeve facings. There wasn't too much to do there, so I just did that and hopped on over to serging the vertical edges. I used a 3-thread overlock stitch on this to sew all the vertical seams so they don't fray, and then I had to cover up my machine because Sadie will eat all the strings. After everything was serged, I took it over to start sewing up the darts. That process went along just fine. There were only a couple darts, so it didn't take too long. Then I followed the instructions to move along to the rest of the bodice. And it wasn't until the facings that I ran into a bit of a problem.
How hard can this be? Here we are looking at the bodice front. This is the neckline, and I sewed in the facing, and it's going to be like a collar, I believe, and I'm not sure, but I think I need to recut the facing. It's going to be at an angle, no matter what. Should they be facing that way? Yeah, they should, right? I should recut this. Yeah, right? They should go this direction. And I've got them backwards. Yeah. I'm going to recut the facing. And then that has inner facing on it. So I got to recut the inner facing. Good thing I just basted one side.
And I decided to call it a day after that. So I went back and recut the facings and inner facing for day 3 and put them back together, just not seen here.
All right, so I've slip stitched the shoulder facings and I back stitched in the ditch for that. Now we have a proper collar facing the right way.
And with that, I decided to call it a day and cover up the machine to protect it from Sadie.
Here are my sleeve facings. It is possible they are facing the wrong direction too. I'm about to find out. Well, I guess because they're rings, there's always going to be someone going the wrong direction unless I pieced them together, and that just seems like a lot of work for sleeve facing, so you shouldn't even be able to see it because it's going to be inside the garment. So I'm just going to go ahead and see where we end up. I still need to clip, grade, and press them, but the facing ended up that the back part of the sleeve hem is facing up. So actually I'm pretty happy with that, because if someone happened to see, like if you lifted your arm, maybe that might be the part that would show. So I think that was a good decision. All right, it has come together quite nicely in the end. The sleeves just need to be hand stitched on the raw edge to the inside, so I will do that. And then we get to move on to the skirt, but I probably won't get to that until tomorrow. Back to the serger. It's day 5. I'm going to switch from 3 threads to 4 threads. Sadie is back helping. This is why it's taking me 5 days to get to this point even. And I have lined up all of these tiers to try to make them as straight as possible, and so that it looks like a continuous strip, because the fabric was only 44 inches wide, and so I'm going to need it longer. So I'm going to attach a bunch of these strips. I've got 12 strips. I'm going to sew them short end to short end. I'm going to ruffle the entire thing with the ruffler and then cut them up into the 3 tiers, and that will turn into the skirt. I serged all of these pieces together, and hopefully that does not bite me in the butt going through the ruffler here. I'm just gonna do one big huge continuous ruffle. So here we go. Here goes nothing. Uh-oh, Sadie's here to help. Can you see back there how we're getting that nice ruffle? I have the ruffler set to 1 and not quite all the way down for depth. All right, here we are coming to that. We're coming up on the seam. Trim off that. We're going to see how it goes. Okay, it seems to be okay. You see how nicely it's making those ruffles. When I did my practice swatch, I used 10 inches of fabric and it gathered down to 5 inches, which is what I was going for, so about in half. How's that ruffling going, Sadie? There's some tension on my fabric. Fingers crossed we don't run out of bobbin thread. Uh-oh, broke a needle. Needle broke. Okay. Pause. How hard can this be? Honestly, that took so long to fix. Got a bigger needle in. I was having trouble re-engaging it, but we're back in action now. Alright, I ruffled all of that fabric. I busted off one needle and part of the thread guide. Focus, camera, focus, come on. Part of the thread guide, which I'm not worried about because it's not the main thread guide, but it's the secondary thread guide for this machine if you were going to use a twin needle. And there's actually a reason I don't use this one for a twin needle, because it is aligned to the left hand side. This machine, like this left hand side is where the street stitch is, and like you measure from the left hand side to 5/8 of an inch or 1/2 inch. So if you set it in the middle, which you would think is where you set it, the zigzag actually wouldn't go all the way to the left and all the way to the right. And so this one needs a twin needle that has a left-hand side orientation. And I cannot find those anywhere for the life of me. They all come with a middle orientation. Let me show you a picture because I don't think I'm doing a good job explaining. The original model for the 668 here. And to use the twin needle, you need a twin needle that is left aligned. See here? It wants you to use a left aligned twin needle. That is how you make it work. And you want to set it at L so that it is aligned. But I have only ever been able to find this twin needle type, which is the center twin needle. And so I can't use it with this machine that was my grandmother's. I can't use it. And I have multiple other machines that are not only twin needle capable, but dual needle capable, where you can put 2 needles in. So I don't use this one for twin needle sewing, and that's what that thread guide that broke off would be. So I'm not terribly worried about it. I could also get that replacement piece, I'm guessing somewhat easily, just the clamp here. But for now, as long as it's not too sharp, it's a little sharp. So I might file it. I could get a file it down a little bit. But as long as it doesn't catch on anything, I'll probably just leave it. But all that fabric, there's ruffles, ruffles, ruffles. Looking good. It's very hard to tell in this lighting, but we do have the first row ruffled, gathered, and attached, pressed up to the bodice. Now we have 2 more rows to do. Back for day 6, I've just attached the 3rd and final tier. Now I'm going to use the serger to finish the seam allowance, press it up to the bodice, and move on. Hopefully today is the day we finish it. The lapped zipper has been installed. This is only like the 3rd zipper I've ever sewn, so we're just not gonna look at it too closely, but it works. And the dress fits, so now all that's left to do is hem it, which I do think will take forever. So again, this is day 6. Maybe we'll finish today, maybe it will be day 7. Depends on how long this hem takes. The instructions said to sew a narrow hem for the bottom, and it said to start by sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the bottom to use that as a guide for turning. So that's what I'm going to do now. And 100 years later, the hem is complete.
As I said, we do need a cruelty-free and vegan makeup item to go with this look. So I'm using the Nomad Witch City Salem lipstick in the shade Hocus Pocus. How perfect is that? This is a purple shade. How adorable is this little packaging with the little witch's hat? Now this is more of a lip balm in my opinion, but it's nice and hydrating and I do really enjoy it. And here we are. This is the final look at the patio dress with the Hocus Pocus fabric. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I absolutely love how this turned out. I'm actually obsessed with how this turned out. I think it's dramatic, it's fun, it's a little spooky, it's perfect for Halloween. I love the fit. I think the adjustments I made and the measurements I picked were just right. It's also got that vintage vibe that I was going for. I had to complete the transformation with these trunk or treat earrings and of course the Nomad Hocus Pocus lipstick. We've got this beautiful purple witchy look. There are 2 other colors in the collection. Let me know if you want to see them. I'd be happy to show you. And I can model them with this dress. The patio dress from the Gertie Sews Jiffy Dresses book is a great dress. It's a bit more of a challenge than some of the other ones, but it's not too challenging. It's not quite as jiffy, for me at least, as some of the other dresses, but I'm also not the fastest and I get interrupted by children, pets, and a work from home partner a lot. So I also don't have the most consecutive time to work on that. That's part of the problem. The fit is fantastic. I did make a 1-inch sway back adjustment, and then of course, because of the way the patio dress does not have a skirt pattern, I was able to customize the fit right to me, and I think it turned out absolutely stunning. If you're a complete and total beginner, I will say I don't think this is the best dress to start with, but if you do find that book, a very easy one is either the pop-over dress or the chemise dress. I do think the wearability of this is a bit limited because even though from far away it looks like a fun fall print and not just the witches, I definitely don't see myself wearing this beyond October. But that does still give me a full month of wear every year, and that's all right by me. Now, if I did it again, I would definitely use a contrasting fabric for the facings here on the collar. I think this would have looked great and a little less busy, even if I would have chosen a solid fabric, especially something like a black or a blue. A shiny black might have been great for Halloween, though it might have made it look a little more costume-like than a wearable dress. So I think while you could go either way, that's just an option I would do if I had thought about it before, even after having to cut the facing out twice. I didn't want to cut it out for a 3rd time. So this is it, my ultimate Hocus Pocus patio dress. This ended up being quite an affordable dress because I was able to find the fabric for only $2 a yard, though this pattern does take up quite a bit of fabric, so it can be a little bit more expensive. With that in mind, if you want to look for this pattern at the library, you can usually get it for free. I bet if you're interested in sewing, someone that you know has a sewing machine that they would be more than willing to let you borrow, especially now that you know approximately how long you need to borrow it, maybe about a week or so. But if you took your time cutting it out first, you might need even less time for the sewing project. It doesn't really take too long to sew up, and if you have more dedicated time than I did, you might be able to make it a lot faster. I'd love to know in the comments beyond what you think of this dress, what you thought of my foray into sewing, and if you would watch more videos like this. Should I try more sewing content? Are you into it? Are you just here for the makeup? Let me know. I'll put a link for the pattern book in the description box below. The fabric, I believe, is sold out. If I can find something like it or something similar, I will link that if there is anything not affiliated, not sponsored.
I hope you'll consider subscribing if you liked this video, and if you're interested in more sewing or vintage machine content. Also, if you're interested in more cruelty-free and vegan makeup content, I have a whole lot of that here on the channel. I'll be sure to link something for you to check out next. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.